Now we're on part 4 of chapter 26. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, when you look at Dem and you look at his pragmatism, so he believed in serving the people out and create wealth for the people within. So what he wants to do is he kind of embraces a little bit more of the Western stuff. So he encourages foreign investment, and the United States will open up trade again with China under President Nixon in the 1970s. And because he's opening up trade with foreign markets, he does not believe in any more of this self-reliance, and he doesn't encourage it in China. He actually wants China to participate in the global economy. So per capita income is going to double in the 1980s. There's a demand for the fifth modernization, which is democracy. Now, this is going to become a little bit of an issue because Dem is not going to appreciate any criticism of the Communist Party, so they refuse to listen to any of it. And a democracy wall near Tiananmen Square in Beijing is going to be set up, and this is where people are really starting to criticize the Communist Party. But you got to understand, by the 1980s, more Chinese people are studying abroad, which is why this questioning of the Communist Party is starting to get a little bit out of hand in Dem's opinion. So you're going to see people starting to have a little issue with it. So incident in Tiananmen Square, May 1989. So rising expectations. There's more exposure to the West. Those students are traveling abroad. You have students who are typically leading these protests, which is what a continuing trend we see. So May 1989 demonstrations are going to be held, and this is on the anniversary of that 1919 May 4th movement. So science and democracy is going to be really kind of the rallying point again, just like it was a while ago, Mr. Tsai and Mr. Dai. Demand is going to end for corruption. They don't want any more corruption, and they want a new leadership. Because they're questioning the government maybe too much, and they are getting a lot of attention around the world for it, the tanks and the troops are going to be sent in, and the demonstrators are going to be arrested. Ding and his government are going to blame the demonstration. They're going to say that it was counter-revolutionary elements, it was violent, it was getting out of hand, and so they had to take care of it the way that they knew how to. So from Marxism to Confucianism. So what we're going to start seeing is we're actually going to start seeing Confucianism being brought into China. So we're going to get rapid economic growth starting again in China. So consumer goods are going to be made available, but they're mainly made available to the urban, the city middle class. Rural peasants are going to still have some issues. They're going to still lag behind. What you're going to have is high taxes. The farm production is going to be on the decline, and corruption is going to start leading to unrest among the people. So Confucius is going to be brought back, and it's going to be rehabilitated. And why it's rehabilitated is to curb the Western influence and to maintain the Chinese Communist Party in power. So you're still going to see like family being praised. You're going to see property being protected. So the government is going to use the spirit of Chinese patriotism and nationalism to achieve its goals. So we'll go back to the glorious days of China. We'll use it as propaganda tools. So Chinese successes and assertions cause distrust among its neighbors, including Japan, India, and Russia. People start to look at China, who are neighbors of it, and they start to look at it with a little bit closer of an eye. And Chinese patriotism doesn't solve all the problems because you still are going to have ethnic and religious dissent in certain areas of China, and you're going to have religious movements starting in China. And a religion is eventually going to be allowed. So serve the people, Chinese society under communism. So economics in command. Post-Mao leaders are going to place economic performance over any ideological purity. So you can put communist thinking aside if the economy is not working. So there's going to be a reduced bureaucratic control over state industries. There's going to be tolerated emergence of a private sector, so people are going to start owning things. They're going to open China to the foreign investment and technology, so you're going to start seeing China really having a lot of technology developing. There's going to be special economic zones along the coastal areas, and Mao's little red book disappears. We're going to see some agricultural reform too. So we're going to have rural responsibility systems. So peasants are going to lease land from the collectives, and they're going to be able to sell their produce. And so we're going to start seeing sideline industries being encouraged by the government. Agricultural production is going to go up. It doesn't necessarily benefit everybody equally. So $10,000 households are the new rural rich. So teachers would all be millionaires. So when you look at this, what it's just saying is that you're starting to see a little bit of the wealth starting to get out into the rural area, not just stay in the urban area. There's an undermined government of the birth control, family control kind of planning system that China has. So you'll see the rich farmers having more than one kid so that they can have sons, and that will help them, of course, on their farms. So the one-child policy is technically the policy, but you do have people who have more than that. Evaluating the four modernizations, so living standards do increase, which means that whenever your standards of living increase, you always want more, so you have a higher expectation. Stock market was established, so exports are going to increase dramatically, and a lot of the exports do go to the Western powers, so the United States, Britain, France, just pretty much everywhere. Failure of state-run factories led to massive worker layoffs, so you do have people who don't have jobs, so you have high unemployment. Rural areas benefited the least, so the rural people will move to cities trying to find job opportunities, which is a typical trend in history, but they live in miserable conditions, very poor tenements, rural overrun, terrible conditions. Evaluating the four modernization, the living standards did increase. You got the stock market. You have the failure of the state-run factories, which we get a lot of our workers being laid off, and your rural areas, your country areas benefited the least. So social problems are also going to happen in China. Women and the family. So in the 1950s, marriage law guaranteed women equal rights with men. So women could start a divorce proceeding, and some of them did. Policy is going to start weakening towards the family structure. And when you say it's weakening, in Mao's time, he kind of wants people not to be dependent on anyone else. So he doesn't want the wife dependent on the husband, stuff like that. So he ends Confucianism's 5 relationships. But during the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, children were encouraged to denounce their parents and students their teachers. So that was great for everybody. But you're going to see that changing the closer you get to this time period. So lifestyle changes. Post-Mao, we saw a shift away from revolutionary utopianism. You get improved living conditions, so people get homes, they get a TV set, they get indoor plumbing. That Mao suit, the one that's really plain, that's going to be replaced with regular clothing, jewelry, surgery, you name it. Religion is also going to start to be tolerated, so you're going to start seeing different religions coming in to China. Materialism, consumerism, and political cynicism is going to be among the youth, so people are going to criticize the government. And you see privatization happening, and it's kind of a social safety net that was reduced for the elderly. So China's changing culture. In 1949, not the West is art for art's sake, but rather art for life's sake, and culture was used for political, philosophical indoctrination. So when you looked at the artwork in the 50s China, it was more about like propaganda and trying to get you to buy into socialism. So socialist realism retreated after Mao's death. So when Mao died, it's like they kind of started going away from the propaganda, socialist realism, and you get avant-garde exhibits in the 1980s. You get literature of the wounded, so you're going to start looking at the brutal nature of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And you get some films in there that are actually going to condemn the past deeds of the Communist Party. So I'm done with chapter 26, so you should be able to answer all the questions that you were given in class.